So, this is it.
All right.
This is it.
Oh, well, I mean, that's a story.
All right, let's get it, baby.
That's a story. So, just after high school, I wasn't working. I was just kind of loafing around. At the time, my stepfather and I didn't really get along so well. And so he kind of had it up to his eyeballs with me. And so he said one day, like, you got to go out and get a job today, or I'm changing the locks on the house. And so I was like, oh shit. So I grabbed my stack of resumes and just went out and plastered, the annex with my resume. And I went to the BLOOR cinema at the time, which is at the corner of Bathurst and BLOOR. And I was like, are you guys hiring? To the guy in the box office there. And he was like, yeah, can you work tonight at 6? And I was like, fucking A, yeah, I can.
All right.
So, I brushed the dirt off my shoulders and went home and happily told my parents that I'd gotten a job that day. And that changed my life.
It snowballed from there, then, I guess you could say.
From there, yeah.
From working at the BLOOR cinema to the next steps in that portion of your career. What went down?
So the BLOOR cinema eventually closed for a whole slew of reasons that I won't get into, at least not now.
Another time. Perhaps have on a buddy of yours with you and go through it all.
Indeed. So after the BLOOR closed, just before it closed, we had done a show, and some of the guys from myself and one of the guys who worked at the BLOOR got in touch with another guy, and we basically found an old defunct cinema and got in touch with the owner and kind of got that up and running. And that was a full-on 7-day-a-week, 18-hour-a-day thing for a while.
Yeah.
The whole place lasted for about 2.5 years, but that kind of workload lasted for about a year, and it was intense.
Yeah. Fun times, though.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was one of the best experiences of my life.
Yeah.
It really was like running my own business, and that's where the accounting kind of came back.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Play.
Yeah.
And I did done some accounting as well at the BLOOR, just as my managerial jobs there. But it was a lot of fun. But it was intense. I remember we had to get an order from Coke to come down there for a show.
Okay.
For a weekend of shows, and our owner, who was a total crook, he kept on bouncing checks all over the place. So he bounced his last check to Coke, so they wouldn't accept a check. And what ended up happening was that because the cinema was in the basement level of a condo, it was somewhat difficult to deliver the amount of stock necessary to feed an 800-person cinema.
Okay.
So basically what happened is that the driver came, he realized he couldn't drop it off on the main floor, so he dropped everything off on the ground, like on the floor by the concession stand in the basement level. And then when he went to get payment from me, I gave him a check, and he's like, oh no, I'm not allowed to take checks. And I was like, what, do you really want to take all this stuff back upstairs? Which he did not.
He did not.
And that we ended up having a fantastic weekend.
All right. Well, I think talking on behalf of all your friends, it was an awesome place.
Well,
an awesome experience. When you think about your times there, is there any specific, really just like highlight memories for you? Perhaps guests, perhaps parties, perhaps just like, just chilling in a place. What was it that really sticks out when you look back as that, couple of great times that you had there?
Yeah, we had a lot of really good, really cool times there.
All right.
So it's hard to pick just one, but I think,
not one that more than the others, but the first one comes to mind.
I think the opening night when we had a full house for a double feature of Clue and Big Trouble in Little China, and each of us kind of got up there to kind of give our little speech about, before opening. And, I got up there and kind of gave my little speech, and at the end I was like, and turn off your fucking cell phones, and people just like there was just this huge roar, and everyone was like really into it. You could just feel like the love of classic cinema in the
All
air
right.
and all of that. Like, and and it was just like, and then and then we cut the lights and the reels started. Right, it was just a magical feeling.
Awesome.
And to kind of elicit that from people, it was super
Awesome.
Cool.
You had stand-up comics down there.
We did.
You did. Let's talk comedy for a bit.
Sure.
Favorite comic you had in there?
Favorite comic I had in there, Brian Posehn.
All right. When you think about comedy, do you feel as though there's anything you shouldn't joke about?
When it comes to comedy, is there anything you shouldn't joke about? Yeah, I think there are. I don't think that full-on rape jokes are really necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I've heard some pretty bad ones.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know from personal experience, but I go as far as to say your average rape joke probably isn't written by someone who was raped.
This is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now, if when you look at what comedy can do therapeutically for certain people, I'm not using rape jokes as an example, but the idea of certain subject matter, cancer jokes, for example, people have dealt with that, people dealing with themselves, who dealt with family, just different subject matter that is it that there aren't subjects that shouldn't be touched more so as it is just the context. I was sitting down earlier. Close mentioned to me, it's more important to read the room, perhaps at times. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
But like when you walk into a comedy club, and you're in there, you're going to a comedy club. Do you feel as though in that sort of environment that anything should be on the table, or do you still feel as though let's not hit those subjects. Let's try to maybe keep it a little more clean.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough, man. I mean, like I could care less about offending people, and part of good comedy is to be offensive. I just feel like when it comes to, and really that's my line is rape. There's just nothing funny there to be mined, so it's just crass, and it's just meant to offend, I think. But aside from that, no, I think bets are off. I think if you're going into a comedy club, you should expect to hear something that might make you cringe, or might make you, feel a little bit upset. But hopefully you're laughing.
Yeah.
And if you aren't laughing, then the comedian hasn't done their job.
There we go. All right. Let's pivot here. Let's go for music. You and I, we bonded at a young age over a great band like Deftones and such.
Right. That's right.
When you think about types of music and I don't know where the fuck I'm going with this. Where was I going with this? So talk about music, right now, I think over the past few years, when I think about our friendship and talking about music, the bands have gotten tighter and fewer, and there's, not a lack of sharing new music, but more so just, it hasn't been as as strong in our friendship, right? And I feel as though there's been that on your end. I want to know, have you felt yourself just more so not listening to music as much? Has it been more so that you don't have the same access to it? Is it, is it a technology thing, or is it a personal thing that you're just preferring not to listen to it?
I'd say it's definitely a technology thing. Like when Napster and LimeWire and what was the other one? What was the blue one?
SoulSeek. Kijiji is the fucking thing we use now. SoulSeek and Kazaa.
When those things are still around, I followed new bands. It was really easy when you could steal music.
But it's okay. The thing is,
so when those things went away, brass tacks is when those things went away, I found it really difficult to kind of pay attention to new music, and I refuse to use iTunes. I have an iPhone and I love it, but I've never paid any money directly to Apple, and I refuse to do so. And I just found it really hard to keep up with new bands because the internet, essentially made it able for anybody to get their stuff out there. I just found it to be just too much. What's the word when you have too much to choose from?
You know what? Due to the marijuana that I smoke consistently before doing the show, I'm a little lack for words. Sorry, I have lost words. There's too much variety. There's too many options. You just
there's too many. It's just too many options, and I just got like overwhelmed. It was overwhelming, the amount of options, and so I just kind of stopped paying attention. My mom had a five disc CD player, I'm pretty sure she had the same 5 CDs in there. And when she would clean the house on Sundays, she put that on repeat or whatever. And so lots of Sarah McLachlan, Tori Amos,
okay,
Tom Waits, and other kind of like alternative Soundgarden, all the kind of alternative stuff like that.
Okay.
And so there are definite songs that like I can hear now, and like they make me think of my mom cleaning the house.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, but like I myself didn't listen to popular music until I was like 13.
Yeah, so growing up with eclectic music taste for your mother, what genre do you remember being the first one that you started to gravitate to more? You know, when did you really go, oh, I really like this, and start, realizing you got 1 or 2 CDs that sound that way?
Well, I mean, like I loved classical music.
Okay.
So I grew up listening to classical music. I listened to like Beethoven Lives Upstairs. And T.W. Tchaikovsky, those little audio cassette tapes.
Okay.
It's like a little story.
Okay.
I tell you like a little story about like Beethoven living upstairs, and like it was all set to his music.
All right.
So I listened to that stuff. I was a huge classical music fan. It wasn't really until my mom's then boyfriend, now my stepfather, he bought me the Melancholy and Infinite Sadness.
All right.
Double cassette tape.
Yeah, double cassette tape.
And I think that's kind of what kind of got me turned on to alternative music.
Okay.
The Pumpkins, Radiohead in the mid 90s, we're talking like 95, 96 was the release of the Bends. That was a huge record that around the house. The Bends for sure brings back a lot of memories of sitting in the kitchen watching watching parents make breakfast.
What about guilty youth pleasures when it came to the music? Stuff that, you listened to back then. I mean, I don't think that, you're one to be embarrassed of any musical tastes. But,
No.
But what are some things from back in the 90s that maybe people wouldn't expect you to be a big fan of?
Well, I mean, like... obviously Limp Bizkit has to be... obviously Limp Bizkit, there are certain songs that I still enjoy.
Yeah.
They do have some pretty good riffs.
Yeah.
But man, if you were to put on like fucking like No Sex or something, for me right now, like I would probably turn pretty beet red to think that like I listened to this song and I enjoyed this song.
I don't know anything about what you're talking about. I love Limp Bizkit. Still love Limp Bizkit. Embarrassed I love Limp Bizkit? No. But I don't understand why I loved Limp Bizkit so much when I look at who else loved Limp Bizkit. Traveling.
Okay.
You've been around the world and then some.
I've been up to a few places.
Yeah. When you think about places that you want to go back to, let's start with that first. Places that you've been to that you want to go back to. What's the first place that comes to mind?
First place that came to mind was Prague.
Prague. Why?
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I've never been and love to go. When you think about that, is there a certain experience you had that wants to bring you back there? Or?
Well, I went there with my dad, and it was one of the first times we took a trip like outside of Germany, because we always try and like go somewhere different when I visit.
Awesome.
So it was one of the first times we went outside of Germany. It takes a little while to get from Berlin to Prague, and I think I was maybe like 14. And so I just remember just how absolutely beautiful the city was, and just how absolutely beautiful like every single female I saw was.
Europe.
Yeah. But just being in the kind of a young adolescent in one of the world's most beautiful cities.
Good times.
Good times.
Good times.
Good times.
All right, well, let's bring it back to Toronto.
All right, Toronto.
Let's go back to Toronto here. Let's go with a couple of questions, 3 questions of 3 sort of thing. Toronto, 3 favorite anythings about Toronto. Anything. Whether it's out. You go for it. Go for it, buddy.
So one of my favorite things with Toronto is that it's a grid.
I know that and love that you picked that.
It is a beautiful, perfect grid.
All right. On an angle, but that's all right.
On an angle, but if you're ever lost, which way is Yonge Street?
Boom.
You know where you are.
Boom. All right.
So I love that about the city.
Memories, areas, parks, crosswalks, whatever.
Bathurst and Queen, the Big Bop.
Okay.
A lot of good all.
Yes.
Yeah. I know you weren't necessarily a fan, but went to lots of shows there when I was a kid. I think that was one of the first places I went to go meet somebody from ICQ at.
Yeah. Go on. That fucking noise, man. It still comes in my head sometimes. Yep, go on. So you're saying first place you met somebody down there?
No, I didn't actually meet them there. I don't know if they were there or not, but I did go. But yeah, the Big Bop, great venue, great all ages.
Reverb upstairs, I enjoyed. Listen, don't tell me I went to the Big Bop once or twice as well. It's just when you there's certain corners of Toronto that when you say them in certain eras, I just smell piss.
Yeah, and then.
Give me another one.
The Black Bulls patio.
The Black Bulls patio. See, I'm not there with you on this one.
Yeah, but see, okay, here's the thing. Black Bull, across the street used to be the Silver Snail.
Yes.
Fantastic comic book shop. So
you're winning me over a bit more. I'm
so
sorry you're going with
when
this.
we're talking like 25, like 27 years ago.
Okay.
When it was still like a biker bar and you couldn't have kids sit there.
Yeah.
My mom would take me to Silver Snail.
Okay.
She'd get me some comics. She'd go to the Black Bull and drink with her friends, and I would sit on the other side of the fence and read my comics.
Okay. That's a fun experience. You know what? I apologize for not meeting you on there. When you're talking about just favorite memories and reasons for places in Toronto, that's a great memory to have there. That's fantastic. All right, let's look into this is one that I like right now. I like the idea of getting more answers on this. You got yourself right here. This is the ASMR genie question.
Oh,
if this was a genie, Nigel, you could ask it 3 questions.
Ooh,
3 wishes.
3 questions or 3 wishes?
3 wishes. It's a fucking genie. I misspoke. Sorry, genie.
Okay.
All right, give me 3 wishes, baby.
All right, I would like $1 billion in small Canadian bills.
Okay.
In as many suitcases as will hold.
Okay.
It
Okay.
In my bedroom.
Okay.
Because with genies, you gotta be fucking. You can't give any
I
leeway, man.
respect it. I like where we're going with this. Continue.
Can't give any leeway. I would wish that my hair come back to the way that it was when I was 20.
All right. All right.
And to gray but never fall out.
All right. You got a lot of men out there going, all right, you're that one, buddy. Go on.
And my third one, I would wish to be able to teleport anywhere that I can picture in my mind.
Okay. I love that. When you think about waking up in the morning, what's driving you? What's giving you that drive to get out of bed in the morning nowadays? All right. Listen, we're gonna. This is where we're gonna get deep. We're gonna get deep between the cheeks here, my brother. All right.
If you truly love something, let it go.
Yeah, I understand that.
I think that one makes way more sense.
Yep, it does. Let's fucking move on to something else. Let's talk about kids.
Kids.
Let's talk
okay,
about relationships. Let's move on to children. You ever thought about having kids?
I've thought about it.
You've thought about it,
Yeah.
and
No fucking way.
no fucking way. All right, now why? What's on top of your head when it comes to just giving the straight no? If a woman you were with wanted to have children, would that sway you?
I mean, like that. It would be really. I don't think so.
No, okay.
No, I don't think so.
Would that be something that, let's say things are going really well on a date, everything's going great, round 3, round 4, when do you bring that up then? When is that a deal breaker? When is that hey, do you want kids? Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the nicer things about online dating and, dating apps and all that shit is you can include right off the bat that you don't want kids. And it totally just avoids that question. Now, if back into like real life, you've met somebody and you don't have a list of likes and dislikes in front of you. I would say that you kind of have to feel out what this relationship's going to be. Is it going to be more of a casual thing? Mm-hmm. In which case it doesn't really matter whether or not you want kids, or do you feel it going down like, a long-term relationship kind of path?
Yep.
You should probably get this out there because you don't want to get stuck where I certainly would never want to be stuck being in love with somebody who really wants to have kids with my complete and abject desire not to have kids.
What is it about kids that you fucking hate?
Well, I mean, okay, I don't hate kids.
All right,
I do hate
clear that.
I do hate some parents.
Oh yeah, no, I believe one thing to say is there are no bad children, only bad parents.
Yes, much like dogs.
Much like dogs. That is exactly where I got that from. Go on, yeah. All right, so that being said, what is it about the little niños that rubs you the wrong way? That makes you just go, not for me.
It's that when people have children, they almost always say, I think they all say, if they didn't, they'd be sociopaths, is that it no longer is about me, it's now about my child.
Okay.
All we get is our own life.
Yeah.
All I get is being inside this head with these thoughts and this body. Mm. I'm too fucking selfish to want to give caring about this up for somebody else who could treat me like shit.
All right.
Or, could just be whatever. I'm going to have to deal with all of the stuff that they have, like diapers and going to school.
Okay.
And bullying and just...
What about the idea of molding a life, though? As someone who enjoys RPGs and games... another great reason to have a kid, my God. Yeah. Like the idea of molding a life, though, does that not intrigue you? The idea of raising someone, of instilling your values, of passing on your lessons learned in life, does that intrigue you? Are you interested in perhaps being like, are you more of the guys, I'd like to be an uncle. Yeah. I'd like to be perhaps a stepdad, perhaps get into a relationship where they're 6 or 7 or whatnot. And you miss the diapers, and I just get to be like, hey, you want to, it could be something that you're possibly open to, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, definitely being like the cool uncle and all of that. Yeah. Like that's for sure how I've always kind of seen myself in relation to kids growing older, and I would have no problem with that whatsoever. I mean, I've babysat a fair number of children. All of my younger cousins, I babysat when I was a kid, and I babysat for friends' kids as well. And I do like kids. Yeah. I just don't want them for myself. So that's totally cool. And if it was a relationship where she already has a child, I wouldn't be opposed.
Let's touch on the good old marijuana. The good old marijuana.
Oh yeah.
All right. Your opinion of marijuana?
I love marijuana.
All right. As an adult, as a youth, has your opinion changed? Have you gone through different stages with it? What's been your relationship with good old Mary Jane?
Well, I mean, definitely when I was a kid, I smoked a hell of a lot more than I smoke now.
Okay.
The idea of rolling up a gram into a joint and smoking that whole thing to my face is next to impossible these days.
It's a scary time.
Yeah, it's a scary time. But I mean, I still smoke it every day. I still... like to have it around. If I don't have it, I'm not terribly happy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I use it almost solely for relaxation at home.
Okay.
It's not really something I need to, like, say, fuel social endeavors or anything like
Okay,
that.
gotcha. I'd had this conversation earlier today, and one thing that was brought up was when I don't have weed and I'm in a bad place or whatnot. It's like, you know, the not having weed isn't what put me in that bad place. That bad place probably has me not having weed. There's
Right.
one way to look at it. So it's like, you know, for example, if I'm broke, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not that I'm upset that I don't have weed. I'm upset that, that sort of idea. My brother said it really well.
Yeah.
And it's true because, like, you know, when you're in a good place, you just landed in Berlin. You just landed somewhere. You're in a new country. You're camping, whatever.
Yeah.
When you're having a beautiful fucking day, you don't give a shit if you got some weed or not.
This is true.
It helps to aid on the gloomier sort of whatever. And it's not to say that, like, you know, you're avoiding your emotions and you're just trying to self-medicate, which I guess I am sometimes. But whatever. I mean, like, that's the thing is that with weed and abusing it, I will admit I have.
Yeah.
Definitely. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is just like, you know, I don't know, fuck that. When it comes to marijuana and your relationship with it and enjoying it from an adult point of view now, you say you smoke a little bit less.
Oh,
Why?
yeah.
Why do you find yourself smoking less now?
Well, I think just my ability to smoke that much is just decreased. I don't know if it's a tolerance thing. You'd think the tolerance would go up, but I definitely don't have the. I guess maybe I just don't have the ability to get as stoned as I used to get. Maybe it makes me too anxious if I get that stoned.
Yeah, that definitely.
I mean, I solely smoke out of a pipe, which is it's a little pipe, so I can only put in so much at a time.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, even just from that, it limits how much weed I can smoke.
Well, let's talk about the fun, magical times that you and I have shared. When you talk about and think about the usage of psychedelics, how have they affected your life?
Oh, well, I mean, they've definitely affected my life in terms of, like, you know, they really are, not to sound cheesy, but they are eye openers.
Yeah.
You know, they really do kind of expand your perception of reality and make you think about things in a much different light, I think, than if you haven't. And so, you know, when we were teenagers, like the first few times we tried out mushrooms, they didn't really have any effect on me, and then the one time that they did was kind of like a real, ooh, this is super fun.
And Gagushka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is super fun and pretty trippy and crazy. But it wasn't until I tried acid for the first time that I really kind of got that, you know, that perception widening feeling of, you know, being connected with the universe and how, you know, the earth is alive, and just, you know, just really kind of feeling that extrasensory type stuff that's usually linked with LSD.
Okay. All right. You know, in regards to the relation between psychedelics and spirituality, did you feel a connection there? Was it more so a connection to the physical universe around you, or was there a higher feeling of understanding and perhaps something linked towards something that you would think is maybe a spiritual awakening, perhaps?
I wouldn't go so far as to say a spiritual awakening.
Okay.
I mean, I definitely felt more so, like, in the physical sense, like, you know, we're all creatures on this planet, and we all, you know, like, it's a living, breathing, singular unit kind of thing. And so I guess I felt, you know, kind of more in touch with that, which, you know, could be ascribed to some kind of spirituality. But did I feel more in touch with, like, God or a God or the concept of God? No.
No. Okay. Now, do you find yourself to be a spiritual person in general?
No, not really.
No. Okay. When you were raised, did you ever have much influence from your family? Did you go to church or anything like that when it comes to basic organized religion? Was there an impact on your life at a young age?
So my my mother and I were not really religious. The family itself, you know, aside from being Irish, was not really too religious, which is, you know, strange for an Irish family. But no, my mother and I weren't really religious at all. That was not something that I was brought up with. However, My best friend growing up, who was Jamaican, he
Okay.
went every week to a Jamaican Pentecostal church.
Okay.
His father had a big white Cadillac with red velvet interior that he'd only take out on Sundays. And
Awesome.
so, as a kid, I just loved getting dressed up.
Okay.
I still love getting dressed up. You know, I was the kid on the first day of school who was in the full-on tie and
Okay. Yeah.
jacket and the whole 9 yards. So I love getting dressed up, and I think they love taking this little white boy with them to the Jamaican Pentecostal church.
Okay. So fond memories of that aspect of organized religion, perhaps.
But
Yeah.
and that being said, like we would go to like the Sunday school portion, which was for kids and a little bit more laid back. When I the few times that I saw the adult portion, I don't know what your understanding is of Pentecostal church, but like that's where they're talking in tongues and like they go in whole on
the
fits.
intensity. Yeah.
And it's very intense.
Yeah.
And I stopped going when they started telling me that women wearing pants was a sin.
Okay.
And I was like, my mom wears pants.
Wait a second.
Wait a second.
Hold up.
This is all bullshit.
Now, on the opposite side of that, were there anything that any experiences at youth or any ideas that were brought up to you that made you interested in perhaps wanting to get involved in organized religion or perhaps visiting the church on your own?
No, never. I never
okay.
really had any sort of spiritual desire like that. Organized religion, I think for as long as I can remember, was like not something that I was ever taught was like really a good thing.
Okay.
And my experience, with the Pentecostal church as a kid, just kind of was like, no, this is kind of BS.
All right.
And that's kind of where it stayed.
Okay. All right. Now let's go on to fun stuff, right? Talk about some fun stuff. Right?
All right.
Death.
All right.
You think about it often?
Yeah, I do think about it often.
What comes to mind when you think about death? Do you ever consider, the idea of there being an afterlife when we're on the subject of religion, heaven and hell, for example? Has that ever crossed your mind?
Yeah, it definitely has crossed my mind. Like, what if I'm wrong and there is a heaven and hell? I in terms of like my actual beliefs, I think I call myself an agnostic. I don't really know if there's something out there. I don't think there is, but I'm not totally saying, I'm not like hardcore,
Yep.
like, nope, there's nothing, we die and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure. I mean, I think that the brain is a fucking really crazy thing. And so, all the stuff like when you die, DMT is released in your brain or something similar to that. And that's why people have these out-of-body experiences or they see their life flash before their eyes. I'm much, and that could last in your brain. That could last an entire lifetime. We could be dead right now.
That's a great point.
That I definitely believe in. I definitely think that like when you die, something happens, either brain chemistry wise or something, and there'll be you'll trip, something will happen.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And what worries me about like the idea of hell is like perhaps this trip out is based on some sort of anxiety. So like I've always thought like, say, killing yourself is is a mortal sin in many religions, and so what if when you kill yourself, the brain toxin that release just gets you caught up in some sort of idea of hell, where you're living with this guilt for however long it takes until your brain stem dies or whatever.
Fun, right?
Fun stuff.
Yeah, fun stuff. All right. Any when you think about reincarnation, or the idea of the meaning of life and the idea of when this is all over, going to some grand lobby like heaven and figuring things out. I mean, when reincarnation is brought up to me, I like to think of the idea of when you're playing a game and you've chosen to play a game with a certain character and you beat the game, and then you go, well, that's who I wanted to play as. That was fun, but I wouldn't mind trying as this. I wouldn't mind putting myself in this position. I wouldn't mind trying this with lower stats and da-da-da-da-da. And that idea of, you choose this life to come back to, right? This is if you're entertaining the idea of reincarnation. And I like to entertain the idea of just about anything.
Yeah.
But with something like that, on that level or on a scientific level of these particles and atoms have been here before, repurposed in your body again. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, like, I think one of the big things, that I believe in that I guess is somewhat spiritual is that, our bodies are powered by electricity and electric impulses. And when we die, that electricity has to go somewhere, whether it joins with like the the Earth's electromagnetic field or what have you. I mean, I'm no scientist, so I'm just talking purely out of my ass. But like, it has to go somewhere, right? And so the idea of like a reincarnation or experiencing past lives, I think that strong electrical impulses or surges or whatever you want to call them can leave imprints. There's also like the idea and concept of time being non-linear. So myself living here in 2020 Toronto could also be simultaneously living in 1020 Belfast.
Yep.
And you could maybe like catch glimpses of something like that. So I'm not sure, but I think it's interesting to think about.
Yeah.
And it's not stuff that I would write off. And I think the idea of reincarnation from like the Buddhist outlook in terms of like if you lead a good life, you'll be reincarnated into a higher form after you die is a really kind of beautiful idea.
Okay.
And I think it's much more enticing to kind of have something like that than like as you said, to be invited into like some grand lobby for being a good person.
Yeah, gotcha. Now, what about the idea of raising the dead? What about the idea of the occult and magic and dark magic and such?
Oh, and that shit's super cool, man.
All right. So, did you ever have an interest in that when you were young? Did you ever, dabble? What's your take on it?
I never really had too much of an interest in like magic or anything when I was younger. You kind of think of it as just like parlor tricks and silly pulling rabbits out of hats and silly things like that. Having done LSD and having read some authors who've also tripped and talk about magic and stuff, and this idea that like our perception is malleable is I find really fascinating. And I definitely think that there is some weight to be put behind like belief.
Okay.
And I really think that if you could get an entire like 120,000 seat NFL stadium filled to capacity of people, and you got them all to concentrate on bending a spoon in the middle of that stadium, I fucking believe that spoon will bend.
Okay, I like that.
Now, whether it's because all 180,000 of those people just simply believe that it's bent, and to them it appears bent, or it just bends based on that mental force. Yeah. I definitely think something will happen.
Eh?
Yeah.
I like that. All right, well, let's move on to other oddities and such. You got anything like, being Irish and from the Isles over in Scotland, perhaps the idea of something like the Loch Ness Monster, the Bigfoot, aliens, oddities like that?
Definitely. There has to be aliens.
Okay.
There absolutely have to be aliens.
Okay.
There's no doubt in my mind whether there are or not. There definitely are.
Have you had any experiences, any unexplainable experiences, whether it be even from your young youth, that stick out as a that was something going on?
No, I mean I've had some like real heavy duty deja vu.
Okay.
Which is probably the only thing I've been like, no, this, like I've dreamt about this.
Yeah.
Or like I felt this happen before. Like that shit I've had, like that shit's for real.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of any sort of like, unexplained stuff, no, I can't say that. No.
All right, now let's go over to a word that I'm going to find another one to use for conspiracies.
Conspiracies.
Okay, conspiracies and such. Moving on to what's another word for these things? Okay, so talking about conspiracies, perhaps. Yep. Bringing up conspiracies now. Are there any that you entertain?
Are there any conspiracies?
I mean, it's like this. The term conspiracy alone automatically puts you on this sort of, I feel like, defensive sort of like,
Lee Harvey Oswald was not just some guy who killed fucking JFK. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
Whether you want to believe the Irishman, the movies take that it was the mob who killed him, or it was the CIA who killed him, or Castro, or what have you, I do not believe that it was just one dude.
All right, so this has been fun, brother.
Yeah, buddy.
I am so happy that we know each other for 20 years. Glad you're the first brother I've had on here. It's been great.
Love you, bro.
Love you, buddy. All right, so let's end this off with a real easy one. Super simple question. Why the fuck are we here?
Why are we here? We are here to laugh and play and drink in the sun.
That's a fucking answer I love. You know what? That's it. We're done. I love you, brother.
Love you too.
Great fucking time. This is it. This is what I'm saying, okay? What the whole point of this podcast is to sit down with friends.
Yeah.
People from my life that I've known for ages.
20 years.
Hey, 20 years for us, my brother. Yeah. Thank you.